Welcome to the Freedom Dreamer Live with me, your host, Marsha Lane Foster. We're coming to you from the studios of Lane Foster Fine Art and Freedom Dreamer Photography in historic downtown Rogers, Arkansas. Thank you for being with us here today. We want to talk about our sponsors for just a few minutes. We want to thank Mary Barrett with Cruise Brothers Vacations for sponsoring our show today, and also Regina McGuire with HempWorks CBD oil. Thank you so much for sponsoring our show today. Here on our show, we love to talk about the things that I'm passionate about. When I started this show, I had a huge list of things that I'm passionate about. I tried to pare them down and I just couldn't because I'm truly passionate about all of these things. So I have a list for you. I love women's empowerment. Everything I do in my life really falls under the umbrella of women's empowerment. So that is my biggest, most passionate thing. I love art, writers, musicians, filmmakers, visual artists, love all you people. I'm kind of one of you people. I think that's why I love you. Community, outdoors and conservation, spirituality, personal development, and financial freedom and health and fitness. So as the show goes on, I may be able to pull all that down into a tighter ball, but for right now, that's what it's all about. And if you would like to be on the show, then all you have to do is send me a message and we'll talk about how you fit within the parameters of this show. My guest today is Andrea Cadelli with Heartfire Stories. Welcome, Andrea.
Well, thank you, Marsha. It's great to be here today.
I'm so glad that you came. Thank you for spending your time with us here today.
Oh, where else would I rather be? Of 1984. I was 13 years old and about to go into the 8th grade. And on this particular day, I sat in my junior high gymnasium with 23 other 8th and 9th graders who had just tried out for the school's drill team. It was a hot June day, and it felt like 100 degrees inside that gym. But we didn't care. We were huddled together in excitement, holding hands, waiting in anticipation for them to announce the new squad. Fast forward to junior high. I had one goal and dream in my whole life in junior high, and that was to make the drill team. And I don't know why that was my dream, because I literally, I was horrible at dance. I had no rhythm, but for some reason, all my friends were going to do it, so I wanted to do it
Well,
too.
you tell stories through dance with drill team, right?
That's right. That's right. So that was like my big goal. So, I practiced for an entire year, and right as I was about to go into 8th grade, I tried out. Well, I was one of only 2 girls who didn't make the team.
Oh, wow.
And I was devastated. Like, it was like my life had ended, right? And, but good things happen often in disguise. Mm-hmm. And really it was a blessing for me, because what it forced me to do was find my true passion, which is theater.
Oh,
and
wow,
so
okay.
I started getting involved in theater. I actually lived down the street from a director, and he worked at a community college. So he started casting me in shows at the community college. I was doing theater at my school, mm-hmm. and I loved it because, again, it was bringing, characters and a story to life on the stage. So, it was really fortunate that I didn't make the drill team, because it actually allowed me to find my true passion.
Yeah.
And I followed that really all throughout my career, all the way up to getting my Master of Fine Arts degree in directing. Mm-hmm. So I also have an undergrad degree in theater, and when I got out of undergrad, my plan, again, my big dream, my big plan was to move to Chicago or San Francisco, a large city, mm-hmm. where, theater is prevalent, and I wanted to work as a theater director, and that was like my, my big goal. And unfortunately, I had a death in my family. My middle brother, who was 5 years younger than me, Dino, was shot and killed in a shooting accident.
Oh, I read about that in your book, and
yes.
It was just so heart-wrenching to read
yes.
that story and how it happened.
Yes.
And it was so random.
Yes. And so, that was such a big, tragic thing for my family that I just didn't feel like it was the right time to venture far from home.
Yeah.
And I made the decision at that point in my life to, stay near home and, try to start a career near my hometown, and then I could see where I could take my theater career later. So my first real job landed me in retail, which was a total shock to me, because it was the last place I really could envision myself.
Right.
But apparently my theater background, my background in communications, it was actually a really good fit for retail. because I was able to pitch ideas. I was able, to do presentations. I actually worked with executives. I ran a newsletter. So I did a lot of internal communications. And I spent really the next 20 years kind of moving my way up the corporate ladder. And I got into marketing. I was doing training and development. I worked for Walmart Television. I did change management. I did a number of different things while I was working for the company. So it was a great career. It afforded me a lot of opportunities to do new things, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. But then in 2014, there was really another big pivotal moment in my career. And I was working in marketing at the time for a Fortune 500 company. And we were actually testing some personalized marketing, which was really an exciting time in my career because it was technology that most organizations didn't even have access to.
Oh, wow.
So right in the middle of all this, excitement with my career, my youngest brother, who was 10 years younger than me, was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer. And he died 4 months later. And it really was a shock to my family. And, I'd already lost my other brother, lost him very suddenly. And it really just threw me into a major tailspin because the world just wasn't right. He was 34 when he died. He had 2 young kids. And I just couldn't really grapple with it. I was dealing with a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and I had really irrational fears that something bad was going to happen to me next, right?
Well, I think in that situation, that is how most people would feel.
Yeah,
and it would make sense.
It was horrible. It was horrible. Just to watch my mother and his kids go through that, and then dealing with all this fear and anxiety that I had. So I finally decided, this isn't something I'm going to tackle on my own. And thank gosh I was courageous enough to reach out to a licensed counselor and ask for help, because I'm not sure I'd be sitting here with you today had I not done that. I mean, I could feel myself spiraling downward very quickly. It was very scary. So anyway, the good news is, I sought help from a counselor, and I started to, feel myself kind of coming out of the depths of that depression. But then a year later, I was laid off my corporate career. And so it was just like wham, wham, these things happened so quickly. And it was just a time where I didn't feel grounded. It felt like the ground was always moving underneath me. And when I got laid off my corporate career, I thought, what? Universe, I just want to figure out what my purpose is, because obviously I'm supposed to be doing something else. So I really took some time. I got a lot of feedback from people that knew me through the corporate world and people that knew me just personally. And I asked them, what do you think I'm really good at? And I wrote down a list of all my
I can see you doing that.
Values, the things I believe, my desires, the things I want. And I was really looking for connecting points, right? Between the things I valued, believed, felt like I was skilled at, and then I was looking at the feedback I was getting from other people. And it didn't take me long to see that the connection is that everything that I did that I was good at, that I loved doing, all evolved around storytelling. Because even when I was working full-time at Walmart, I was doing films on the side, I was directing theater on the side, and thank God I kept those passions and didn't put all my eggs in one basket. Because if I had, when I got laid off, that would have been a really devastating event in my life. But I really wanted to use it as an opportunity to reinvent my career and really take what I'm good at and what I'm passionate about and take it really to the next level.
Yeah. I love how you've taken all of the things that have happened to you and crafted them into not only who you are right now, but what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the story's so important to me too. I mean, I tell stories with photography. I've been involved in a little bit of filmmaking too, and the further I get into my creative career, the more that I know it's really all about the story. That's what people want. They want that meat. They want to know someone else has gone through things as bad as I've gone through, and they've emerged victorious. And I can do this too. I can make this. So,
and that's really the beautiful thing about story, is that when you tell someone a story, you're literally kind of inviting them to join you on that journey with you.
Absolutely.
And they get to walk in your shoes and kind of see the world through your eyes and through your experience. And it really unifies you, because when you do that, people start to focus on the things about you that are similar, and they kind of lose sight of the things that make you different.
Definitely.
And storytellers, I think, are, amazing unifiers in our, in our world. So,
well, my next question was to talk about why stories are important, but I think we covered that.
Yeah. I think there's a couple other things that I would add, in addition to stories helping you connect and engage people because they make you relatable, which is what we kind of just touched on.
Right.
Stories also make you and your message more memorable. And this is actually a neurological effect of stories. Because when you tell someone a story, it actually releases dopamine in the listener's brain, and that triggers our focus, our attention, and our long-term memory. So, if you are a speaker or you own a business and you really want your message to resonate with people and for them to remember it, telling a story is a great, strategy for activating their memory.
I love that. I love it when there's science behind art.
Like storytellers are also like, we're the legal drug pushers because we actually trigger the release of chemicals in the brain, which is pretty amazing.
I love that.
And the last thing that I would say about, why stories are important is that, and I have this thing that I often say, opinions build walls and stories help us tear them down.
Oh, wow, that's great.
And I think it's important for people to remember that when you share a story with someone, you're taking them on a journey with you that really helps them kind of let their defenses down, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a product or a service that you want to sell and you can embed that in a story that you tell people, they're going to be more open and receptive to hear about what you have to offer. So storytelling is great for people that are in sales, people that want to share a vision, a mission story. Those are all great ways to take stories to help you communicate that message.
Yeah, I love that. I love all of that. So what kind of stories do you help people tell? That's what your business is about, is helping people craft their story and be able to tell it, whether they're doing it on social media or on the internet or standing up in front of a bunch of people and doing it. What kind of stories do people need help telling?
Sure. Well, the first thing I do when I work with a client is I help them discover the first thing they need to get clear on is what is their message. So what is it they're wanting to communicate? And that has to really be determined up front. Once they know their message, then we take a look at, well, who's your audience? Who are you targeting this message to? Because they need to be very clear on that, because the message will be constructed differently and we will tell a different story depending on their audience.
That makes sense.
So it's what's your message, who are you going to be speaking to, and then the third thing we look at is what is a story that reinforces that message and relates to that audience and will help you achieve whatever objective that you want to achieve. So the objective that you're looking at is what do you want the audience to feel and what do you want them to do? And the story needs to help you achieve that. So if I'm working with a leader who wants to implement change in an organization, I might be helping them tell like a vision story, right? Yeah. So they can get people on board with the vision and encourage them to move forward with the change. Now with a nonprofit organization, they're really looking to connect and engage potential donors, right? So they're trying to build that relationship with people who might become donors for them. So for them, I might be helping them build out their mission story, right? How are they creating that emotional connection with the audience of people that they want to become their donors? And how do they build that relationship? Because it really is a relationship.
I love all this because I have been thinking more of you working one-on-one with individuals, and I didn't realize that you can work with an organization.
Absolutely. And I do work with individuals. I have several clients that are public speakers, and one guy actually is a neurologist, so he's really fun to work with because he understands the science behind what we're doing. But I do work with individuals, and I also work with organizations. Brand stories for a small business owner, they may not be real clear yet on what their brand story is or how they really need to position themselves with their target customers. So a brand story and creating a brand statement is something I can do with like a small business owner. And then even with entrepreneurs, they may want to pitch an idea, right? So they may have like an idea that they want to pitch to venture capitalists. So you can work on them with a story that's going to help support that pitch.
Oh, I love all of this. I know we're going to talk about your workshop later, but when I went to your workshop, the whole thing was beneficial, but there were a couple little nuggets that I pulled that I pulled out of it. And it wasn't things that I didn't already know. They just became in focus for me at that moment. One of the big ones for me was, I believe art heals hearts. And I already knew that, and I've said that before, but I really realized the importance of that statement when it comes to what I do at your workshop that day.
Right, and how that statement connects emotionally with others.
Right, and so just those couple little nuggets that I got were worth the entire workshop for me. And I was so excited and inspired when I left. So, well, let's go on and talk about some other things. So your business is called Heartfire Stories.
Yes.
That draws me in immediately.
Good. That's good.
Because that's things I'm passionate about. That really draws me in. How did you come up with that name?
Well, it was a process, but really what I was trying to do is create a name for my business that really not only fits my brand, but fits the type of storytelling that I teach people to tell. Mm-hmm. So Heartfire Stories are true stories, well told, that ignite emotions, inspire change, and influence results. And those kind of stories in specific are transformational journey type stories. Mm-hmm. And they create deep emotional connections with people, and they're the kind of stories that inspire and activate behaviors. So I really wanted the name to really reflect the type of heartfire connection that I teach my clients how to build.
I kind of see, especially if it was an individual or a small group of people working with you, as really being a personal development experience. Is
Absolutely.
That kind of how it comes out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
And I work with writers too. There were some writers in the workshop that you attended, mm-hmm. and sometimes, writers want to work on just telling their personal story. And how to communicate that in a way that it resonates with people, their personal journey. So I also work with, writers as well.
You have a clip for us. Tell us a little bit about the clip we're about to see.
Yes, I do. So I also do public speaking, and on one of my engagements back in May, I was in Las Vegas speaking. I actually started my speech out with a story about my Italian grandfather. So there's a story that I tell about him and a story that he told me and how it impacted me.
Okay, so, I can't wait to see it.
Parents' house, feeling ashamed, embarrassed, and disappointed with myself. I was trying to figure out how a girl like me who didn't make the team, what junior high would have in store for me. That evening, I walked into the den and I sat down next to my grandpa Nono on the green and orange plaid couch. He was watching an episode of The Jeffersons. And even though I wasn't paying attention to the show, I was grateful for the distraction of it. But then suddenly, he got up in the middle of the show and turned the TV off, and he stared at me. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, but this is what I remember him telling me. Stella, when I was 14 years old, my mama sent me to the market to get her sewing materials. So I go into town and I'm about to cross the road when I see a horse-drawn carriage with 4 Italian soldiers inside. They stare at me and whisper, and they watch as I walk across the street. I hear the horse's footsteps following behind me, and I hear a man yell, "Wait!" But I don't think they are talking to me. But then the man yells, "Stop!" louder and louder. So I stop and turn it around as they pull up beside me. And one of these soldiers bounces down the steps and demands that I get into the carriage. He threw a uniform at me and said, "Join us now and fight for your country." But of course, I was scared and I did not want to go. So I said, "No, I will not." But then I hear a gun cock, and I see another soldier lift his rifle and aim it right at me. And he says, "Put on the uniform and join us, or I'll shoot you right here." So I'm listening to my grandfather tell this story with my mouth and eyes wide open in shock. What did you do? "Well, Stella, I'm no idiot. I put on the uniform and I get into the carriage, no? I had no choice that day but to join the Italian army. I was 14, and it would take me months to get word back to my familia that I was alive and okay. Stella, sometimes life is tough, and you've got to be tougher and learn how to survive in a world that feels unfair. 'Tis true, no? After hearing my grandfather tell his story of how he joined the Army during World War I forgot my disappointment of not making it onto the drill team. I'm not sure if that was his intention or not, but I will never forget his story and the way that it made me feel. It gave me a whole new perspective on my own life struggles, and it filled me with awe for the man that I'm blessed to call my grandfather. And even though
Let's talk some more about your workshop coming up.
Yes.
And I mentioned that I had attended this workshop, so beneficial, so worth what the fee was, which is very, very reasonable. There's no reason why anyone who needs to learn to tell their story better cannot afford to come to this class. Yeah. I mean, it is just so beneficial and so worth it. So tell me a little bit about the Power of Your Story workshop.
So it's going to be next Thursday, June 28th, from 9:30 to 4:30. So it's a full day class. It's going to be at the Center for Nonprofits in Rogers.
Okay.
And it's a really, as you know, because you've been, it's a really fun, creative, and interactive class where I work with people to help them discover, craft, and share both personal stories, because those stories are the kind of stories we have to tell to really create those connections and engagements and build trust with people. Right. But I also work with them to tell their brand story and create a brand statement that helps drive their business. So it's really cool because it's kind of divided into two parts.
Right.
First part is more about personal storytelling, and the second part is about really how you can promote your business and tell better brand story.
So who is an ideal person to attend your workshop?
I think it's really probably geared most towards like small business owners, entrepreneurs, because those are the kind of stories they really have to tell.
Right.
But I've had writers in there that loved the class. You know, I didn't really target the class for that, but because of the personal story element, I've had a lot of writers tell me that they really got a lot of benefit from the class. So, you know, I think we even had, I'm trying to think in the last class, we had a woman that was in filmmaking. So we had a filmmaker there. We had a life coach there. And then you were there. We had a dog, someone that does dog sitting.
Yeah, she's kind of an amateur writer too.
Yeah, we had someone that was in PR. So, you know, I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit because really, no matter what you do in your career, if you can tell good stories, you really have a competitive advantage over people.
Well, what I'm thinking is imagining a small business owner and your ability to be able to tell that story to your potential clients. And you mentioned the neurology and the science behind it. So imagine you're telling a really great story to a potential client, and what you're telling them is causing them to release this dopamine, and that makes them, I would think, makes them want to do business with you because they have that really great feeling while they're talking with you and while they're sharing that story. So
yeah, absolutely. And the other neurological effect of stories is that because they trigger emotional responses in us, that's what activates our decision making. So if we can make someone feel something, they're more open to being persuaded.
Because people are more likely to make decisions based on their emotions.
That's right, correct. So if you don't tell anything to someone that makes them feel something, you're probably not going to be able to persuade them to take an action.
Right. Well, I recently rewrote some things that I had on my fine art website, and I didn't realize, I got feedback from other people on it, and I didn't realize whenever I first wrote it how really dry it was, because it was just all the facts and there was no personability in it. And so the people that read it and gave me feedback, that was my light bulb, is there's no feeling in this. And so when I rewrote it, I used a lot of you will experience, or to help you do this. And it's like I was sitting with someone talking to them, as opposed to just doing a list of benefits and a list of things that you're going to get. So that's my recent happening, I guess, with storytelling.
Yeah.
It is really so important. It's in every facet of our lives.
Absolutely. And it's all about creating that emotional connection, which then, if you can make someone feel something, they're going to be more open to listening and being persuaded as well.
Absolutely. So we have your Power of Your Story workshop coming up. Tell us one more time on the date and the times on that.
Yes, Thursday, June 28th. That's next Thursday from 9:30 to 4:30 at the Center for Nonprofits.
And I highly, highly recommend it and endorse it. Loved every bit of it. And when you said it was 9:30 to 4:30, I thought, I wasn't there that long that day,
and most of the feedback I got on my survey was that they wanted it to be longer. So I'm like, I'm going to add an extra hour or two, because I think it was till 3:30 when you came.
Well, still though, I don't remember being there that long.
Yeah.
It just seems
it
like
flies by.
It was so quick, and I was sad when it was over. But it was a really excellent day. So every time I do a show, I ask my client, or actually my client. I'm sorry that I'm so conditioned. I ask my guest to come up with a quote, usually in the spur of the moment. So when my guest arrives to do the show, I say, oh, you're going to do the quote. And they're like, wait, what? I have to come up with a quote right now? But I think it keeps it really spontaneous. So,
yes, and this was fun because I didn't have to think very hard about which quote I wanted to share.
So you already had it.
Yes.
It's something you probably live by.
It is.
So Andrea's going to share our quote for the day. I'm going to hand that to you so you can share it.
So the quote is, you may tell a tale that takes up residence in someone's soul, becomes their blood and self and purpose. That tale will move them and drive them, and who knows what they might do because of it. Because of your words, that is your role and your gift. And it's by Erin Morgenstern. She wrote Night Circus, which is an excellent book if you've never read it.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you, Andrea, for taking time to come and be on our show today.
This was fabulous. Thank you for inviting me, Marsha.
Thank you for coming. I think all of our shows just get better. Every time we do one, it gets a little bit better than the last time. And I'm so appreciative of all of my guests who take time to come. And if you want to be a guest, you can just let me know. And I will talk with you about if you fit within our mission here. So I am going to sign off now, and thank you everyone who followed us live on Facebook, and we will see you next time on the Freedom Dreamer Live.
Do you need a vacation but don't have time to plan one, or are overwhelmed by all the possibilities out there? Contact Mary for more information at greatvacationsawait@gmail.com.
Hi, I'm Andrea Cadelli, and I'm a storyteller with Heartfire Stories, helping you engage, inspire, and influence using the power of story. The key to marketing that works is great storytelling. So I hope you'll join me for my next workshop on Thursday, June 28th at the Center for Nonprofits in Rogers. In this fun and interactive class, I'll be sharing the process and tips for effective storytelling so that you can discover, craft, and share both your personal and brand stories to help you and your business stand out. I hope to see you there.